Good morning, Brooklyn and the rest of the world. We have Inna Vernikov with us. This podcast will be in English because that's how we start today. Is and Inna is part of her work to be our representative in this city council of ours in New York City. Inna, hello and good to see you again.
Good morning. So good to see you. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Listen, I know you were busy. I know you were trying to solve problems that are not just our districts, but also other parts of the city. And if not for you, we wouldn't know about so many things that were happening, and that were so important. And you were our person. I would almost said our man of action in this situation, but we know
Definitely
you're a
not
woman.
man. Definitely a woman.
We know you're a woman. Listen, you just
Speaking
came back.
we could talk about the Women's Caucus.
We'll talk about it too. And by the way, I gave this news, I think, when it was out. But I want you to tell us about Washington, D.C. You just came back from there. And what was your business there? And why did you leave us alone? For what
Okay,
reason?
of course. Thank you again for having me. Hi, everybody. It's been a long time, and we didn't even do this since we had the election win. So it's been so great. You know what? I want to thank your audience and my constituents that are listening to you because honestly, you said without me, you wouldn't know what's going on, and without you guys, I wouldn't be sitting where I am. So thank you all for the support, for the continued support, and for electing me time and time again to represent all of you. Yes, so I just came back from Washington yesterday. I went there to meet with the Department of Education's Anti-Semitism Task Force, which, as you know, I've been really on top of the City University of New York and the anti-Semitism that's been happening there. And when Biden was in office, you know, and I know your audience knows, nothing was happening. All we were getting was lip service. They were saying they're doing something, but nothing was happening. While they're talking, we had injury to property damage. We had harassment on college campuses, students not being able to wear their yarmulke, their Star of David. I always talk about this, so I think everyone knows.
Yeah.
But this is what was going on. President Trump came in and started cleaning up, not just college campuses, but everything else, the migrant crisis, the economy stuff. But let's stick to the City University of New York. Recently, an article came out in the New York Post, and they listed 60 universities in America that are under investigation by the Department of Education, in Washington, not the Department of
Hmm.
Education in New York. And I saw that City University of New York was not on the list. We had Columbia, we had all CUNY, but City University of New York, which has 25 college campuses in New York City, was not listed. So, we had reached out and we got a meeting with the Anti-Semitism Task Force, which is working specifically on the CUNY,
Hmm.
on the college campus issue. And we went there to meet with them. And it turns out that because the City University of New York was already investigated by the previous administration, they have an agreement that was put in place with CUNY,
Hmm.
and they're supposed to abide by that agreement. So now we're gonna pay attention to the violations that there are or they might be by the City University of New York, and we're gonna follow up with them and work together with the Federal Anti-Semitism Task Force to make sure that they're following the rules, and if they're not, they're gonna be sanctioned.
Who's worse, Columbia or City University?
So CUNY is big. They have 25 campuses. The worst campuses in terms of anti-Semitism and the protests and the harassment, it's about 6 campuses: Baruch College, Brooklyn College, John Jay, Hunter, just off the top of my head, Kingsborough, and the City College, which is CCNY. At City College, they had really bad encampments. They had students, Jewish students, who were not allowed to come into class because these protesters, rioters, were blocking them. And they caused $3 million worth of property damages. And they had about 170 arrests at CCNY. And guess how many of them actually went through the system? Practically
None.
nobody. Because we have Alvin Bragg, who lets everybody out.
Yeah.
We have, by the way, we've got all the names of the rioters. They were not just CUNY students. Most of them were actually not CUNY students. They were outsiders. But we have all the names and the charges of the people that were outside CCNY. Okay, people that were charged with property damage and trespass and all kinds of charges. And we have the names of the students and non-students that were outside Columbia University riots. So we got that. We got about 270 names.
Were those people at least New Yorkers, or they came from out of state? Because I know it's like a national movement, so to speak.
Yeah, we're gonna figure that out, and that's part of the entire collaboration with the task force. Because if they could get those names, they can figure out with DHS if they are from New York or if they're from Syria, and if they're funded by someone, and if they are due to be deported from the United States. So we're actually working on all of that.
You're an attorney, and what's your position on the situation with Mahmoud Khalil, this leader of Colombia protests that is now in Louisiana, and he is about to be deported or not deported? There's a lot of talk about him on all levels. But I think if anybody deserved the deportation, also specifically in light of Secretary of State revoking his green card, right?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but there's still a movement going on to keep him in this country for whatever reason. I don't know what's his interest in this country.
Okay,
basically.
I'll try to explain it the way I see it. So the Democrats are trying to paint this as a free speech issue, because they're saying that, look, the guy just protested. He went out there. He said his piece. He's anti-Israel, which is fine. It's totally okay to be anti-Israel because that's your freedom of speech. He protested, and now he's getting deported because he's disagreeing and publicly expressing his disagreements with the policy of the United States. That's what the Democrats are trying to say, and that's the picture they're trying to paint. And that is a false narrative, in my opinion, because Mahmoud Khalil is being deported because of his actions, because of his conduct. Mahmoud Khalil was the main negotiator for Columbia University encampments. He's a spokesperson for the encampments, which actually violated the civil rights of the Jewish students in Columbia. In those encampments were groups of people that were trying to block Jewish students from coming into class, that were, some of them were violent protests where they caused actual injury to students. On those encampments were professors who are pro-Hamas, who glorified October 7th, publicly said October 7th was a good thing. And that is the movement that he's part of. And he was the main negotiator going between the encampments and that movement and the administration, saying, if you don't divest from Israel, we're going to keep the encampments going. So, and this guy justified October 7th. There's evidence of him supporting October 7th, saying resistance is justified. He's one of those people that says resistance is justified. What does that mean? The rape and murder that took place on October 7th, that's justified, according to him. So the Secretary of State has the discretion to deport anyone that he believes is in contravention to the foreign policy of the United States. That's in the discretion of the Secretary of State. It's not a really high bar, honestly. And this has nothing to do with free speech. They're trying to make it seem like the Trump administration is deporting people that disagree with them. There are plenty of people that disagree with the Trump administration and that are anti-Israel that Trump administration is not deporting. There's a reason that they picked this guy, and it has nothing to do with his free speech. People need to understand that.
And also, there is a new information that he provided false information on his green card application too. So that's being dug out, and it's
The
interesting.
United States has no obligation to keep in this country a non-citizen. I understand people have been making the arguments that he has the green card, he's not on a visa. Green card is also a visa, and there's still conditions. If I did immigration law, and when you fill out the citizenship application, they actually ask you all these types of questions like, were you part of the Communist Party? Do you want to overthrow the United States government? You can say, oh, look, these are free speech things. I could be part of whatever party I want. No, but we specifically don't want you in this country if you're part of the Communist Party, if you're part of an unlawful militia, if you want to overthrow the United States government. We don't want you here. So we have the right to deny your citizenship. This guy is not eligible to become a citizen. And if you're not eligible to become a citizen of the United States, the Secretary of State can deport you.
And basically, for someone who hates this country, what's the reason to come here? That's mind-boggling when you think about it. Is just you don't like the United States, then your life should be led someplace else. You find a place which you like, and you go and move around the world until you like the place where you can live with your convictions.
Well, I would argue that it's by design, because we believe that these protests and these people that are coming here, this is being funded, and they're looking at that. There has been some evidence. This is being funded by Iran, by our enemies, for these people to come here, create chaos, and infiltrate into our life, our governments, our leadership positions, you see that happening. We have mayors in different cities, in different states, that are advocating for Hamas.
Yeah, and our own citizens, and I'm not sure if they're funded from abroad, but there are local funders who are financing the damage to be done to this country, to our spirit, to our citizenry, to our children, and so on and so forth. We have lots of things to deal with, and when this comes, and by the way, yesterday I think there was. President Trump declassified the information about Russian collusion hoax. And so we will know today, tomorrow, there's going to be an avalanche of new information regarding this disgraceful
It's so glorious.
event.
There's so much coming. There's so much.
2016, and it's right in our. So we will see as having the ones who had experience on both sides, so to speak. We will see how it all transpired among the U.S. Intelligence and bureaucracy who plotted to not let Donald Trump to get elected, the citizen Trump to exercise his rights to run for office, and how they did conspire against him. But listen, things come to a little place called Shipshead Bay. After all, you look at the globe and you prominently see this place, and this is the place where we are. Where we are situated, that's where we live. That's your 48th district. Tell us what's happening here. There's a project on Coyle Street, and a lot of people are unhappy about this seemingly new. They say it would be an affordable housing building, and people would move in, and it will be not very expensive, etc. It turned out to be false. It was a bait and switch, as people say now.
So first of all, this is not our district. This is right next to our district. But of course, it doesn't matter. We're still fighting against it. What happened was, I think it was in 2023, there was a vote in the city council. But even before the vote, it came to a community board. A proposal came to community board, basically proposing affordable housing, 119 units of affordable housing in that district. The community board approved it. The council members supported it. The council member worked to convince the community that didn't support it to actually support it. And then what happens is it goes up for a vote in the committee in the city council, and then it goes to the full vote on the floor. And so what happens is when you have a project in a district, by a specific member, there's something called member deference, where even if I don't like the project, I'll vote most of the time to support the project because it's not in my district, it's in their district. And if their community supports it, then I just vote to support it. And then they give me the same courtesy. If I don't want to support a project, if I vote no, then they will most of the time, not all the time, but give me courtesy. Like, let's say there was a shelter coming. If we voted no, they would vote no because it's my district. Just giving you a little background. What happened here was that district supported it. The council voted for it. They voted basically for affordable housing in that district. Whatever I may think about affordable housing, that's a separate subject. But the council voted to support that project. Now, something happened. The developer couldn't afford it. Whatever it is, they changed it up. And they now made a deal, a contract. The Department of Social Services signed a contract, which is under the mayor's office, signed a contract with a shelter to host, basically now have a shelter. Now there's going to be homeless people living in that.
In the middle of residential community,
In
which
the middle
is
of a
not very
residential.
luxurious, but people live quiet lives there, and they enjoy living there, most of them.
So first of all, that community was relying on affordable housing for people who can't afford, to rent or buy homes. This was something they wanted, they were waiting for, they were promised. The council member worked, not me, it's my colleague, worked to convince the community to support this. She voted for it, and they totally switched it up, and now it's going to be a shelter. How can people and elected officials trust the other side of the government to make any deals, right? If they're just going to switch it up and make whatever they want out of it. So just on that issue alone, I stand with the council member, but also that there should not be a homeless shelter in the middle of a residential neighborhood. So actually what happened was, you're probably the first news outlet to know about this, but myself and my colleague Mercedes Narcisse, who represents the district, got 24 people, members of the city council, almost half of the city council, to sign a letter committing to no more housing projects in our district unless they withdraw and cancel this shelter. We're going to talk about this. We have this letter signed by half of the council, the Democrat council.
Wow.
Because of the way that we were lied to. And we were betrayed, and this community was betrayed. And I have constituents who have businesses in that district, and they're very.
It's just that the people who are, if you and if you can describe how it represents a problem for those who do not know what a homeless shelter in the middle of residential area
I mean,
is.
it's the problem that presents itself with any homeless population, because typically, and I don't mean to put them down at all. I mean, they're needy. They need the city to help them. That's totally fine. What they need to do is find them a place to live in an area that is not in a residential neighborhood, because it could not be safe. They can come with drugs. They can come with crime. That's typically what the homeless population comes with, because that's just a fact. That's just factual, and that could create a public safety issue for
Source of violence and drug addiction and the general alarming trends in the neighborhood, and we have enough of our own. Frankly, we have enough trouble that we can. And also, those people don't know that you said it's right outside your district, but basically, those people who are in the shelter, they don't know there is a district or this or that. So they just walk about.
Well, I'm not going to assume what they know, and I have nothing against those people. It's just the city should not do this. This is all about money. This is all about getting a contract that's lucrative. So
and those universities that we have, they got to get off their butts and they got to start thinking how to do the triage, as they call it in hospitals. How to sort those people out because they're homeless for different reasons. And it's a first of all, it's a wrong thing to keep them together, even under one roof, because those people are used to different ways of life, and they are free roaming creatures, so to speak. So there were a number of murders in hotels that they were placed in. Pretty expensive hotels, and they were placed in one bedrooms, and they found dead people in there eventually, as
Yeah.
overdose, or as a result of some fights, etc., and conflicts. And of course, sanitary, it's a mess altogether. So the universities, I would think, should have created, maybe government sponsored, maybe
Well,
Washington
that's
D.C. would pay
when
for
it
it.
comes to the homeless, it's literally the policy of the mayor. And like, if you see, I'm sure you've seen like the encampments, like the little tents.
Yeah,
Sometimes they pop up around my district. Like we have one popping up sometimes in Manhattan Beach, Sheepshead Bay, Brighton Beach.
Brighton Beach always, Coney Island Beach always.
Right. That's, and people think that I can get rid of them. I actually don't have that authority or power. But, what we do is we call the Department of Homeless Services and Breaking Ground. They come, they offer the homeless person a place to live. If they refuse, unless they're committing a crime, they can do nothing about it. The only thing that they will do is take apart the encampment, the tent. So that's not my policy. That's the mayor's policy, and that's what we do. We try our best. We're on top of it very much. When somebody reports one, we call the mayor's office, Breaking Ground, DHS, and that's really it. That's all we could do.
Maybe the last question that would kind of encompass, what we spoke about in the last segment. There was a conversation about canceling the category of sanctuary cities altogether. Is it possible? Is it doable? Can some cities, or all cities that are sanctuary cities right now, just stop being ones, and then it would be a little bit different? Because you kind of got to have a war of attrition on the problems that we have here, like illegal immigration or homelessness. So somehow, just to you have to force people to take care of themselves too. You give them psychiatric help. You give them a health check, and etc., etc., and then you encourage them, or you facilitate their employment, or you find them a place where if they cannot work, so they would stay somewhere where not too many homeless people together. It's a bad home for homeless people. If they are together, they prey on each other. So what do you think about the sanctuary cities? Is it a fair thing to end it altogether?
Well, yes, it would be a very fair thing to end it because we shouldn't be an encampment for the entire world to come in here and live off our taxpayer dollars and commit crimes and do all kinds of things and get free health insurance and free food and free hotel stay, because that's what was happening. So I think that the Trump administration did a really good job with this, or is doing a really good job. If you remember, only a half a year ago, our mayor was welcoming the migrants, saying, New York is a city for all, which it is, but just come here legally to, do what we all did, go through the process, and then you'll get your benefits, and then you'll hopefully not have to use the benefits, and you'll get a job, learn English, and do well, right? But that's not what was happening. They were coming in through the border. They were not following our immigration process. They were coming in here because Joe Biden opened the border, rolled out the red carpet for them, and then our mayor was inviting them. He was saying, look, I'm going to give you debit cards. Here's $10,000. You're going to spend cash. Here's your money. You're going to stay at a hotel, right? So,
Yeah.
Causing us to have a worse economy because you're going to have these migrants staying in hotels, fancy hotels, creating a decrease in tourism because we have migrants in some of the fanciest hotels in New York. That's what was happening. He was basically inviting them in by giving them all these benefits. They heard about it and they said, we're coming. And when Trump came in, he had Tom Homan, who's our border czar, had a couple of talks with Mayor Adams, and this administration is now working together with the Trump administration to deport illegals. And just a few weeks ago, they were here. Kristi Noem was here. They were on the ground, and they're raiding hotels. They're really cleaning up. So I'm very hopeful that this is going to be fixed very soon with this administration.
Thank you so very much. Who's your candidate for mayor, or what do you think we should
Oh,
support?
we'll have to see. Let's see who's running. Very exciting.
All right. Next time we'll talk about it.
We will. Thank you so
And
much for having me.
thank you so very much for coming. Goodbye, friends.